Hello, we're live again, and today we're talking to Sequoia Satori, who is a Reiki and sound healer and also a coach in Sacred Sexuality. So, yeah, we're going to be speaking to her. Just going to wait for her to join. Here she is.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. How are
How are
you?
you, Sequoia?
Very well. How are you?
Good, thank you. Where are
Good.
you? Are you in the White Lotus?
Sorry.
Like,
No, not
no.
no, not currently.
I
No.
to see if you were. I just watched your video actually of the whole pimping out of the van. It was great.
It was quite a journey. Yeah, it took us I'd say a solid month and a half of full-time work of really just like fully, stripping the van, renovating it. It was a steep learning curve, but now it's ready to hit the road and yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
So whereabouts are you today? Where are you?
Today in Los Angeles.
Like,
Yeah, just at home in Los Angeles. So the van isn't really like we're not going to do full-time van life. It's
yeah.
going to be more like, there a month there, maybe a couple months, here and
It's
there. But it's
great
not.
there. What I love.
Yeah,
It's like, yeah, it's a great option to have this different lifestyle. And I saw that
exactly.
you just did a Kickstarter, and it
Yes.
was funded. Woohoo!
Yeah, yeah. We're
So
so happy.
tell me a bit more about that. What was that for?
Sure. Yeah. So the Kickstarter was basically essentially our initial project was to do our end goal. Let's start with that. Our end goal is to create a land-based community that brings together all kinds of things like hemp farm, alternative healing modalities such as
Mhm.
yoga and ecstatic dance, but also
Yeah.
plant medicines. Also offers things like Tantra, all in one kind of, conscious land-based community.
Hmm.
And so in order to move towards that goal, we want to not only get different kinds of experts involved as advisors to help us create this community, but we also just want to raise awareness of the different ways that people can live. So, you don't
Yeah.
have to be, you don't have to be in the city. You don't have to be doing the 9 to 5. Like you can actually be in and feeling alone. I mean, so many people in
Mm.
urban areas just feel really lonely. So why can't we just live go back to living in tribe essentially and doing so in a way that is really conscious and sustainable, and but that also still uses a lot of modern day technologies like like solar power and stuff. Like we don't have to go backwards, we can still go forwards, but yeah, but just living more intentionally. So
Yeah.
that's the longer term goal. And so the Kickstarter was to raise funds for a film,
Yeah.
and the hopes are that that film really raises awareness and we'll be able to actually maybe open up like multiple land-based communities. So outside of every major city to have a place that people can come and live for a while. They don't have to stay full time, but have these places that are,
Great.
yeah,
So
yeah, that's the idea.
this will be called Waking Up from the American Dream. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's the documentary, and
Mhm.
we're starting to work on it slowly. I mean, obviously the pandemic has put a bit of a damper on our
Yeah.
plans, but yeah, yeah. And so
Great. Wow.
yeah.
So much going on. It makes him like, gosh, there's so many different ways of like, yeah, living, like you say, and waking up to those different, even just like small adjustments here and there can lead to like a bigger,
Exactly.
so amazing work. Gosh, you're so busy.
Yeah.
But obviously,
Well, we're
oh, what were you going to?
sorry.
I was just going to say, obviously, we got you on to talk more about sacred sexuality.
Yes.
I gave you a little intro, but I don't know if you want to give yourself an introduction.
Sure. Yeah. So basically my I'd say my primary motivator in life is just to help people become more conscious, and also just to feel more alive and embodied, and not have this internal conflict that I think so many of us have, where it's like, we show one side of ourselves, publicly on social media, or in social situations, in the workplace or whatever, but then internally, we speak negatively to ourselves, we criticize ourselves, we, shame the very essence of our existence. Most of us, most of society has a very conflicting message around sexuality. And so my whole purpose is just to help us find a sense of unity within ourselves, and greater consciousness, so that we can, move forward and as like a solid whole entity,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So living a bit more like authentically, I guess, without the masks, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. As a more unified being,
Yeah.
instead of, yeah.
Wow. And so how, I know we were talking about it briefly, but how did you get into working in this space? I find it so interesting, and I've not really, I am quite new to sacred sexuality, so I'm going to be asking quite a few questions.
Yeah, absolutely, please.
But how did you get into? I've had Reiki healing before. I know that you do Reiki, and I love like sound baths. So I saw as well that you're doing those things. But how did you get into? So what's the story behind the sacred sexuality?
Yeah, basically, well, essentially, when I was 15, I was raped by a man that was 7 years older than me. And it was a situation that I suppressed for many years, and I didn't even admit it to myself, I think, for at least a solid 15 years, later. Like it seemed like something that was so surreal. And I did a lot of things that people do when they're in denial. So I self-harmed, I developed addictive behaviors. I was just living really unconsciously, and basically through my path of doing things like yoga. I started with yoga for physical fitness, but through that journey, I actually realized that I had a disconnect between my sexual self, and the trauma that I had endured, and the person I wanted to be. So I went through a big journey of introspection and healing. And that was essentially, yeah. So the first time I was raped, I was 15. It happened again when I was 27, and the second time that it happened was really the catalyst for this whole transformative journey. And it was from there that I really realized that my calling was to help other people, not only move through trauma, but also to be more empowered in their desires, and who they are as sexual beings. That's essentially how it all started.
Amazing. No, thank you so much for sharing your story. And I think, like you were saying, denial is such a common like reaction that survivors often have. So I think, yeah, having that going inwards, can be quite frightening, I think, for some people. But then coming out the other side, obviously healing is like not a straight process. But once you do start doing the work, it is, and finding these different topics, almost like areas of healing. So yeah, like I actually before the pandemic, so I signed up to a Tantra course.
Oh, nice.
So I was like, I really just want to learn more about, so I got into yoga and meditation, and then I was like, how does this connect with the sexual being? So I was like, maybe this is where Tantra comes in. But I literally went to one class, and then the class was over. So is Tantra a part of sacred sexuality, or how does that work?
Yes, definitely. So if you look at the overarching when you look at yoga, for example, I'd say Tantra is almost the umbrella that covers yoga, but it also covers breath work. It covers, you know, any kind of mindful movement. Tantra is essentially about being fully present in whatever it is that you're doing. And it could be as simple as, you know, eating an apple and just being really present with that apple and, you know, paying attention to the sound of the crunch of the apple and sort of the, you know,
I
the
can just imagine
sensation.
apple now. I'm like, oh, yes.
Right, yeah. But that's what it is. It's you're so present with the apple. You smell it, you taste it, you hear it, like, and it's such a full immersion of the senses that, you know, you can practice Tantra with an apple, you know, essentially. But really, when it comes to sacred sexuality, the idea is that you're so present with your partner and you are doing things like, you know, very conscious breathing, conscious movement, you're making sounds. And as you're doing that, you're transcending just the physical plane, and you're allowing the Kundalini energy. It's this sort of serpent energy that is coiled at the base of the spine. So you're allowing that energy to move up through the chakra system, and as that happens, basically you're able to experience union with the divine. So you experience first union with your partner, or well, ideally with yourself, then with your partner, and then you move up to the divine. Yeah.
Wow. And how, so if someone, that all sounds amazing. I'm like, oh, how would you activate? It's not that simple. How do you activate? So I've looked at Kundalini energy before and I've done some meditations, and I'm always like meditating, thinking, when is this snake going to wake up? Like, when does it happen?
Right.
Like a process to kind of get to, maybe it's just the more comfortable you get with your partner, or the more you get into it, it becomes, it's a process basically to wake it up.
Yes, exactly. It is a process to wake it up. And I think it happens slowly over time. They say that most of society actually is living in the first 3 chakras. So, you know, the root chakra being your fear and survival, but also your sense of safety and security. Your sacral chakra being sort of your sexual expression, but also your creativity and your ability to create. So, for example, artistic projects, but also businesses. And then your third chakra at the solar plexus is your sense of like confidence and power, but also your ego. And so people really stay in those first levels mostly, and they are. I was just reading a comment that came up, and that's where, you know, that's where a lot of the status and fame and ego and cars and all of these things are coming into play. But once you're able to move into the path of service and, you know, being able to give back more than you're taking back, you move into the heart chakra, and then it kind of moves up as your awakening process happens. I know that there are some people who have like spontaneous awakenings of, you know, of the Kundalini energy, and it can just be
really?
sudden, you know, suddenly you rise up to
what happens to them? Are they just like, what? Like,
yeah, basically, you know, they're I've witnessed someone actually who basically he had just full body shakes and suddenly was just like not even present in the room anymore, and it was through a Kundalini yoga practice. So yeah, it can happen anytime.
wow, gosh, yeah. I mean, I'm super interested in that area, and working through the chakras. So I do like different chakra meditations.
Nice.
And yeah, it's just the concept of Tantra is super. I feel like it's obviously not just about the physical with Tantra. I was actually looking on your page. It said Tantra means to transform poison into nectar.
Yes.
That is so powerful.
Yeah. And that poison really, it can be things like, you know, judgment,
Yeah.
shame, guilt, you know, anger, all these emotions that we feel that bring us down and that don't actually help us present our most beautiful, radiant selves in the world. Those are the emotions that are poisonous. You know, they show up in
Mhm.
our in how we present ourselves in the world. And so as we practice Tantra, we can really, you know, radiate more and shine more brightly. Yeah.
I think that's the goal for everybody, isn't it? To shine
Yes.
brightly from within, the real
Yeah.
shine. um,
No, absolutely. Yeah.
so would you say, obviously for people who have experienced trauma, sexual trauma, that Tantra is like, I guess, is it alternative to, is it an alternative? Do people think it's alternative, I guess, if you call it alternative healing?
It's interesting. Yeah, I guess we do refer to it as alternative
No,
healing, even though it's really like ancient.
is
It's
it?
it's ancient healing, you know.
Yeah.
For me, it's like the original root healing, and I feel like you know, Western medicine with you know, speaking to psychiatrists, that's the alternative, right?
Yeah,
Because it's
as
so
soon as I said
new.
it, I was like, actually, I don't think it is alternative, but society might be like, it is an alternative because it's, like you say, connecting with something that's been happening, going on for so many years. I mean, I don't know how
Exactly.
the history of Tantra, but it has been around for a long time, hasn't it?
It has a, a few thousand years. I'd say about, yeah, I think it's about 4,000
Just
years or so. Yeah. So it definitely has been around for a while. And yeah, it's especially when it comes to something like trauma. It I know that personally it was the most transformative experience that I could have. You know, because I tried speaking with psychiatrists. They just wanted to give me, you know, prescription medication. And yeah, I wasn't really able to, it was very hard to have a healthy relationship while carrying that kind of trauma.
yeah.
Because otherwise you end up sort of bringing in partners that either re-traumatize or that yeah, that have to be like therapists for you.
I
And
saw actually something on your page again. I've just been on your
yeah,
page,
yeah, yeah, please.
but you were saying, because I'm single at the moment, and it was saying how often the people that come in are almost like a mirror of the work that you need to do, and I was like, that is so true. So unless you do the work and do the healing, you know, you're just gonna, it's gonna reflect back what still needs to be done. So
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, no, because you just end up attracting people that you end up having a relationship pattern of
yeah.
you know, this whatever it is, the one thing that ends up being the wound that you need to work on in the end. Um, I find also though that there is a little bit of a balance because I did spend a lot of time intentionally single, thinking, okay, I just need to work on myself more and more and more. And you know, and, and then finally it's like, well, I worked on myself so much and I felt really at peace. But then, you know, it has been through a relationship now that that I've been able to actually evolve further in my healing process and in my journey and really
Mm.
getting, yeah, just getting more deeply connected. So
And this is Phoenix, the
this is Phoenix, yes, the
oh,
partner.
so, so sweet. And it's been, has it been like 6 months roughly, or?
It's yeah, it's like super fresh. I mean, it's we met in January. Yeah, in mid-January at an ecstatic dance here in Los Angeles,
Mhm.
and basically just connected right away. And you know, I think both of us were a little bit scared initially, you know, because the this connection was so strong and the feelings were so strong. But yeah, it was yeah, we both just kind of decided to plunge right in and yeah, now we're buying vans together and
I
we're making a
you settled
documentary and it's just
down.
yeah.
You know how you were saying, taking your healing to the next phase almost with a partner as well. So once you've done that internal work a little bit, then really to take it to the next level, I guess. Does this come to like the feminine and the masculine of energy within Tantra? Can you
Yeah,
it better with there's like two of you, or
You know, it because the feminine and masculine energies as well, it's something that, at least, okay, from personally, I was operating very much from a place of masculine
that's
up
me.
until, sorry.
I'm like, I've done everything that you're doing. That's me now. It's too masculine, so I'm trying to drop some masculine and be more vulnerable and more like feminine. But that
It's
masculine is like the protection.
it's the protection as well, because you know, especially in society where we value the masculine so much, you know, where like the economy is a very masculine concept. It's sort of like, oh well, everything's just in linear growth and it must always grow. And you know, we're taught to be sort of bold and assertive and competitive and all these things, and being vulnerable, and you know, cooperating and collaborating. These are values that are slowly starting to be acknowledged as important in a workplace. But you know, in school and everything, like we really are taught to be in that masculine. And I know I was very much in my masculine until 27, until I had this you know, the second sexual assault. And it was from there that I really plunged into the introspective, and also realized that I had a very negative, kind of a negative relationship with my inner feminine. I almost hated, in a way, being born as a woman, you know, because it seemed so unfair, the way society was set up. And you know, there were just so many moments of you know, just of everyday sexism that as I became more aware of them, like it just, you know, I got more and more annoyed with this everyday sexism that was happening. And so I was really I wasn't really comfortable or happy to be born in a feminine body. And I think that disconnect as well, it was very powerful and helpful for me to then learn how to be more comfortable in the feminine, and to really embrace it, and yeah, and just learn to surrender and trust, and be more in flow, and all
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
They saw that the feminine energy is being and the masculine is doing.
exactly. Yes,
It's so much
exactly.
already from just going through your Instagram. I was like, "Oh, this is so interesting."
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I guess so. If you are in a relationship, obviously you can have masculine and feminine within yourself anyway. Um, but when so you were saying in your new relationship, it's like strength, like taking your healing to the next step. Is that, why would you say that is? Like, is it because you're in a place now that after the healing, or communication, or what's changed?
Yeah. Well, so touching on the masculine and feminine first, I think it's nice in a relationship. Well, it's nice when you're single to be able to sort of play with, you know, to acknowledge when you're being more masculine, when you're being more feminine, and sort of be able to play with that a little bit, and you know, even setting aside time that you're going to be more feminine. So, and this applies to all genders. You know, you can set aside time to really set the space in your home, light some candles, like really not plan your day, just allow yourself to go with the flow. Like you can really tap into more of that feminine energy, regardless of whether you're in a relationship. But then when you're partnered, it's also very nice to, you know, surrender. You know, one person can really surrender in the feminine, and the other person can really, you know, take charge and take the lead in the masculine. And you can play with that, you know, and it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
The more, you know, I found, at least in our relationship, but you know, typical heterosexual relationship, it has been nice to be able to yeah, to be able to fully surrender. And I find that the more I surrender into the feminine, and just allow myself to be vulnerable, the more I allow Phoenix as well to rise in his masculine. But we play with that as well, because sometimes you know, I'll take more of that masculine role, even if we are practicing something just like a basic breathwork exercise. You know, one person can take more of the lead, and the other person can really surrender into the other. And so we can really play with that, which I think is nice, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So interesting. And I saw that you did a 30-day Tantra challenge.
We did, yeah.
How did
Yeah.
how did that end after the 30 days?
Well, so it went super well. We got a lot of really positive feedback from people, and more than anything, we wanted to create something that would bring a lot of value to people, especially who are super new to Tantra, like, you know, just give a little introduction and an exercise every day. I've actually compiled that challenge down into a small ebook on my website, so it's just a little bit easier than scrolling through Instagram posts. You just have an ebook that you can download. But yeah, it went really well, and basically the idea was to, you know, start. The first week was all about emotional release and just kind of becoming more allowing energy to flow through the body. The second week was really about connecting to the senses. The third week was more about connecting with yourself, and just, you know, even one of the exercises was taking a shower and just being really mindful when you're showering, like you know, touching yourself with full presence, like as you're lathering up, you know. And then the final week was connecting with the partner. So it was kind of built to gradually raise that connection, but really start from within and then move outwards. And I think that's actually one of the most important things in Tantra, or even just in sexuality as a whole. And I really wish they would teach this in schools, but you know, teaching people to connect with themselves first, and to honor their bodies and honor their desires and needs first before connecting with someone else. It's very important.
Definitely. And it is, like you say, it doesn't get taught that it's the inward that needs to be like prioritized first.
Exactly. Yeah, no, we really we teach kids basic anatomy, you know, but otherwise they're mostly learning, especially, you know, young boys, they're mostly learning about sex through porn. And you know, that's and you have actually kids now that, you know, in their late teens or early 20s that are developing things like erectile dysfunction, which never used to affect anyone below 40. You know, that was happening much later in life. But yeah, no, you know, teenagers are now having this because porn has become so accessible, and you know, the virtual world has almost become more real than the real world, and so they're unable to.
I just watched I mean, I watched it, The Social Dilemma, and
I just saw it as well.
So I don't have a personal Instagram anymore because I don't know, it was just becoming a bit too, like you say, I felt like I wasn't even showing my true self on there.
Right.
So for me, it didn't quite work out, but it is just the way that things are focused now. This is why I can't wait to watch The American Dream, Waking Up the American Dream, and this at the world. And I think with everything happening, just looking at different ways of living and thinking, because it's strange to think that they are actually, they're different from the norm. Like you say, the internet and digital now is like the reality, online reality.
It is. Well, and especially now with the pandemic, it's the virtual reality has become more prominent for so many people. And you know, people who maybe are more alone, or you know, who don't necessarily have such a big community, or didn't have such a big community before. I think it's probably become a lot more challenging for them, and so they're
I mean, it's great for things like this, obviously, connecting and having conversations.
Exactly.
But this just talking about more of like getting into nature and connecting like to the source energy. And I saw you mentioned something about rewilding.
I did, yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah. Rewilding, basically just because we have become so disconnected from nature, you know, yeah, we live in these homes in these cities that, you know, you're lucky if you have a park or a couple of houseplants, but
Yeah,
um,
need the plants. Plants to rescue.
yeah, and yeah, the thing is, rewilding is really about allowing yourself to reconnect with the natural flow of nature, you know. So being, even just being more aware of the phases of the moon, you know, when is it a new moon? When is it a full moon?
I
You
love.
know, how does as a woman, like how does your cycle match up with
Yeah.
the phases of the moon as well?
The moon is
Um,
so powerful though. Like I just got into
yes.
the moon this year and I couldn't stop talking about it. I was like, this week it's this. So obviously it was a new moon last week and I saw
Yeah.
that you did was it on Friday? You did a new moon ceremony?
We
Yeah.
did a new moon blue lotus ceremony. So
Wow.
we were using blue lotus tea, which is a mild, it creates a very gentle euphoria.
Mhm.
And so we were serving that as part of this whole new moon ceremony with dance. There was a gong bath at
I
the
wish
end. Oh,
I
it was so nice. Yeah, if we could teleport you here, it would have been
yeah.
lovely to have you here.
I mean, streaming that. I mean, going back to the pros of digital. I mean, obviously, it's not the same as connecting in the rewilding and connecting to nature, but
Yeah.
digitally.
Next time, I think we might do one again in 2 weeks. We'll do a full moon one, so maybe we'll just do a live stream and
I'll
then
be doing that.
yeah.
Um,
Cool. Yeah, that'd be perfect.
yeah, so I guess going back to the rewilding, it is like connecting more to these powerful natural sources that people have almost forgotten about. Like I had no idea the moon, which sounds silly, but I had no idea that the moon was connected to the tide.
Yeah, but
So,
this is the thing.
yeah,
Super connected to the tide, but also our bodies are made up of so much water that, you know, it affects us as well. You know, generally the new moon will be a little lower energy, but the full moon will be a bit more higher energy. And like I said, like women as well, like if you track your cycle, oftentimes like you'll see, oh, like I actually am in line with the full moon or the new moon
I'm
and
in sync with the moon.
yeah, no, I'm in sync with
I'm
the
like
moon. So.
totally, yeah,
Yeah.
that distinction.
No, but this is the thing. So yeah, that's just like one way to really rewild and reconnect with the cycles of Mother Nature.
Yeah,
Another way that you could do this, also if you're living in an urban environment, you know, just going out into a park or you know anywhere that there's a bit of grass and just taking your shoes off and walking barefoot because that, you know, that's kind of grounding you with the earth.
yeah.
Yeah, and just getting back in touch with the way our ancestors used to live with the
Mm.
planet, more in harmony and less, you know, less disconnected.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I feel with the going back to nature, one of my favorite things is just like looking at the sky, like laying
yeah,
down, and just
yeah.
the sky is so amazing. Like, and it's different every day, so it's just like, and it's so vast. I'm like, it's really like hard for me to look at the sky.
It is. No, it's yeah, even just looking at the sky is such a beautiful basic principle because we do spend so much time looking at our phone and you know looking at our computers and you know ordering food online and like we're just so
Yeah.
disconnected from the whole process
Mm.
of life, you know, and life and creation and um yeah, so that's really that's the invitation is just to not only spend more time outdoors. I mean, that sounds very generic, but yeah, really observing nature, observing the moon, you know, getting your hands and feet in the earth and
Mm.
yeah, reconnecting and in that
Do
way.
you think this helped with your healing process as well, like reconnecting to Mother Nature, like you say? Did it help you reconnect
Absolutely,
to yourself?
absolutely, absolutely. Even just being able to observe the wildness of nature, you know, how everything from when it's untouched by man, it does really look kind of chaotic and out of balance. But then you realize that there is like a very sacred balance that's happening between all of the animals and the insects and the plants and everything, and becoming aware of that. Um, yeah, that harmony and that balance that exists in the chaos, in what appears to be chaos, but actually it's not. And
Yeah.
realizing that as a, as a woman as well, it's okay to embrace sort of that wild nature, and not feel that everything has to be so square and so, so perfectly presentable, but that it is okay to be wild and chaotic too, just like Mother Nature.
Yeah.
Um,
Gosh, that's like a
yeah.
new thing that I want now. Like, be wild.
Right? Yeah. Oh no, yeah. Totally.
Quotes on me. Okay, the last thing I was going to talk about was body armoring. This is a little bit something different, but I thought that's super interesting as
It's
well to hear about it.
very interesting. It's very, very interesting. When it comes to, so every kind of traumatic experience that you have, even if it doesn't feel super traumatic, it could be, it could even just be like, well, one of the examples that comes to mind is, for example, you're being intimate with a partner, and you might allow yourself to be penetrated before you're actually ready. But you're in the moment, and things are fine, and you don't really think about it, but your body will still register that as a trauma. And so your yoni, which is the Sanskrit word for the whole like vulva and vagina, womb space essentially. Your yoni will register that as a trauma and will create an armor, and sort of will become less sensitive when it, like, down the road, basically. Sorry, I'm just gonna grab a sip of water one second.
Sorry, I feel like I've been asking so many questions.
No, you're good.
So
you're good.
interesting.
No, you're good. I've also been like totally caught up. So yeah, so any kind of traumatic experience that you might have, whether it's conscious or unconscious, it will create an armor, and an armor is basically a desensitization of a space. So you can also have, so yeah, for women and female identifying people, that happens in the yoni and especially the vaginal canal. There can be a lot of numbness, and for men and male identifying people, that can happen in the anus. And so the de-armoring process is essentially like a massage that you would do in one of those areas. You can do it to yourself, or a partner can do it for you, or a professional practitioner can do it. But there's an element of massage, but there's also an element of applying pressure points. And so putting pressure around the opening of those areas, and slightly inside, and really staying in each, you would do almost like a circle around the space, and really putting pressure in a circle, holding for about, anywhere between 5 and 30 seconds to really just like allow the body to fully release into that.
Release that tension, I guess, like you
release
said.
the tension, exactly. So like if you have, a spot in your back that's really tight, you just apply pressure and you hold, and you might do little circles and then release and move on, essentially. And so you would do that with both the vaginal canal and the anus, and just really let them basically bring sensation back through the application of pressure points. And I think it's something that pretty much everyone could benefit from. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, it sounds like obviously with trauma as well, but without trauma, or just having that that tension, like that built up tension, I guess it's almost like having a massage, like you say, you'd have a massage back. So
yeah, exactly. But the thing is as well, like even like every person carries some amount of tension or stress in those spaces. That's why you can also say like, oh well, someone's being like anally retentive or something. That's a thing that people say, but that's because you a lot of people will hold stress there, or they'll have a bit of a someone's laughing. But it's true.
It's so interesting. Honestly, I'm like learning so much. It's
but
so much
we do.
when you
we
go.
hold tension there, and because that's the root chakra. That's our fear and survival
Yeah,
space. And so if there has ever been a moment where we felt, fearful, or we worried about our ability to survive in a situation like that creates a tension in that space. And
yeah,
so, you do want to intentionally release that so that you can be more whole and complete in your sexual experience, and just as a person, like to bring awareness and sensation back to every single part of your body, inside and out, front and back.
yeah.
That's essentially the idea. Yeah,
And you can do this, like you said, you can do it alone, you can do it with a partner, you can actually do it with a practitioner.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
Wow, gosh. Yeah, that's so
yeah.
so interesting, and so many interesting points we've covered there. I'm trying to think what else I noticed. But yeah, I guess how can people work with you then? So you do the Reiki healing, sound, moon,
Yeah.
everything. Tell us
So
more about how we can work with you.
absolutely. So the Reiki and sound healings I was doing in person prior to the pandemic. Now it's been a little bit more tough, and it's I feel like it's nicer to be able to do these practices in person. So yeah, we can still do them digitally, but more than anything right now, I am offering coaching, one-on-one
Mm-hmm.
coaching for any kind of sacred sexual practice, to
Yeah.
help anyone who needs to overcome trauma, or anyone who's just looking to experience a little bit more bliss in their lives, a little more ecstasy in their lives. So I'm doing one-on-one. Yeah. I mean, aren't we all, right? So I'm doing one-on-one practices for that, and then I'm developing some online courses, so that we'll be teaching yoni massage, lingam massage,
Yeah.
and also a tantra practice for couples, so that you can really singles. Well, I'll probably do two, one for singles, one for couples. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Amazing. And
yeah.
where is the White Lotus heading next then? Have you planned the next destination or trip?
So we are going to be staying just in California first.
Yeah.
We're hoping to head up more Northern California to visit some of the intentional communities up there.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, there are some fires there, though. So yeah, we'll just be navigating
Yeah.
according to the pandemic and the weather, and all the other craziness that's
All
happening.
the things happening.
Yeah.
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 There's so many ways, obviously, for us to connect with you, which is fantastic. Like you said, through the coaching, the ebooks as well that you have. I'm sure there's. I'm gonna have a
Yeah.
look. I need to go on there now. Have a look. Yeah, no, it's so great talking to you. Honestly, there's so many interesting things there, and I think anybody who has, thank you as well for obviously sharing your story. Anyone who has experienced trauma, like hearing somebody else's story, and yeah, I think it just makes you feel like you're not alone, and just thinking of different ways to reconnect back to yourself is great. So
I
thank you
absolutely
for
agree.
all your
Thank
work
you.
you're doing.
Thank you for having me. And yeah, no, if anyone needs to reach out, or needs any support in any way, they can obviously get in touch through Instagram, or through my website.
Yeah,
Yeah.
love Instagram. I mean, our pros to Instagram, because that's it's a digital, because that's where we connected.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
beautiful for that. Yeah.
Oh, well, enjoy the rest of your day anyways.
Thank you. You too. And yeah, thanks again.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.